Good day. This video presentation is going to talk about the history of English, more specifically, the Old and the Middle Ages of English, starting on the Old English in the 450s to the ages of William the Conqueror. Then, we will talk about the work of Geoffrey Chaucer, but more importantly, this video will talk about the changes of English in these two eras.
The earliest period begins with the migration of certain Germanic tribes from the continent to Britain in the 5th century AD. From 449 AD, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes began to arrive and aggressively set up home. The English language emerges as a combination between the coastal dialects and the contribution from the Denmark and Norway dialects. The Anglo-Saxon language is considered the earliest form of today's English. The word English was in Old English Englisk, and that comes from the name of the Angles. The Angles were named from Engel, their land of origin, which is where they derived England from. The arrival of St. Augustine in 597 and the introduction of Christianity into Saxon England brought more Latin words into the English language. They were mostly concerned with the naming of church dignitaries, ceremonies, etc. Several written works have survived from the Old English period. The most famous is a heroic epic poem called Beowulf. It is the oldest known English poem. It was written in Britain more than 1,000 years ago, and the author is to this day unknown. In 1066, William the Conqueror invaded and conquered England. The new conquerors, called the Normans, brought with them a kind of French, which became the language of the royal court and the ruling and business classes. English was considered a language used by lower classes. The Norsemen had great influence on English, most obviously seen in the words that English has borrowed from this source, such as take, they, sky, egg, husband, ugly, they, among others. The Romans brought Latin to Britain. Many of the words passed on from this area are those coined by Roman merchants and soldiers. These include win, to refer to wine, candle, to refer to candle, belt, as in belt, and wheel, as in wall. The influence of Celtic upon Old English was slight, but many names of places and rivers have Celtic origins, such as Kent, York, Dover, Cumberland, Thames, Avon, among others. The language has changed much since the period when Old English was used. Back in the day, in the pronoun system, the third person plural did not begin with th. Subject and verb were inverted, opposite as to how we speak now. In subordinate clauses, the main verb must be last, like which they came from. The object or a preposition may precede it in a way no longer natural, because they angels, for examples, nouns, adjectives, and even the definite article are inflected for gender. The system of inflections for verbs were also more elaborate. There were 2 imperative forms, 4 subjunctive forms, 2 for the present tense and 2 for the preteritus or past tense.
And now we are in the age of Middle English, where it begins since 1100 to 1500. At the beginning of the Middle English, it was the arrival of the Norman French in England following their victory at Hastings under William the Conqueror in 1066, who had such influence in the evolution of the English language than anyone before or since. So French took over as the language of the royal court and the ruling business classes and culture. Latin was mostly used for reading language, especially for the church, while the English language was considered a vulgar tongue and it was used by the lower classes. By 1200, Old English came back but changed enormously, with tremendous numbers of borrowing from French and Latin. It acquired the habit that modern English retains today of readily accommodating foreign words. The acquisition of French words in English were vocabulary of power. For example, crown, castle, court, parliament, army, mansion, and so on. Most of the words for domestic animals are from English, such as ox, cow, sheep, and deer. This period is characterized for the beginning of the great vowel shift. Is a massive sound change affecting the long vowels in English. By 1440, the arrival of the printing press is a major step towards a standard grading system. Books were more affordable. Then we have the age of Chaucer, with his famous The Canterbury Tales. The spread of literacy suddenly makes publishing a profitable business. The loss of some inflections and the reduction of others accelerated, often to a final unstressed vowel spelled E. Many changes took place within the phonological and grammatical system of the language. General word order is now very close to that of our time. The number of inflections for nouns, adjectives, and verbs have been greatly reduced.